Stephen A. Smith, about a week or so ago, went on the Joe Budden podcast. And during his visit, he talked about Shannon Sharpe and him being pushed out from FS1. He talked about a range of other things. And then they brought up the question about his time on Max Kellerman. And when Stephen A. Smith started to talk, I just couldn't believe that he was saying this type of thing about Max Kellerman, knowing that the guy just got fired and he's looking for another job, and you're out here saying this. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say to Joe Budden and his crew about Max Kellerman, and then we're going to come back and continue on with the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
What do you say to the people say they saw the tension between you and Max developing on air before his departure from the show? Did you hear any of that?
I heard some of it. I would take full responsibility for that. That's totally my fault.
Okay.
And the reason why it was my fault, because I didn't like working with him, man. It's just that damn simple. I didn't like it. I thought the show was stale. I thought that we had flatlined when it came to the public at large. And I'm trying to win. I mean, I didn't want to go from number 1 to number 2 when Skip left. That's not what I wasn't having that. That was not going to happen.
Did anything in the numbers say that you might have been headed that way?
No, but to me it did.
Creatively?
To me it did, not just creatively, but the consistency of the number.
Got it.
In other words, it wasn't going this way.
Yeah.
It was just there.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I was feeling. And it was like, listen, I had mad respect from him from the standpoint that white dude, highly intelligent, Ivy League educated from Columbia, smart as a whip, can talk his ass off, can talk about anything. And I get all of that. But you weren't an athlete and you weren't a journalist. And the absence of the two components left people wondering, why should we listen to you? Okay, well, you might have had that figured out on Sports Nation, or you might have had that figured out on another show. But on this show, if you looked at the content emanating in the social stratosphere, meaning YouTube and other components that you use to measure one's cachet, Q ratings, focus groups, all of these different things, it was like I was damn near doing the show by myself because we were oceans apart in terms of cachet. Well, how are you oceans apart from me if you sitting right across from me 5 days a week for the whole 2 hours? Because one of us is resonating and one of us is not in that platform. And so for me, I was like, look, this is what it is. And we had a number of conversations, one-on-one, many, many times. I know this audience. I know what they're looking for. I know what they need, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, you're going to do what you need to do or you don't. And if you don't do what you need to do, I'm going to get somebody who will.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say there. Let me first of all tell you why I believe that what he did was extremely grimy. And it was just, I mean, it was terrible. Stephen A. Smith recently went on the same Joe Budden podcast where he said that he was talking about how Shannon Sharpe was pushed out of FS1. And he said that given the fact that he has so much clout and he has the #1 morning show, that if Stephen A. Smith and someone of his caliber basically puts it out there that I'm interested in this type of personality, then it will cause other people to begin to take a second look at Shannon Sharpe. And he said, if I don't show interest in a particular person, then people within the industry are going to say, what, Stephen A. Smith doesn't want to work with him. So if he doesn't want to work with him, clearly there must be something wrong. So why would we want to work with him? That's what Stephen A. Smith said. Knowing all of that, he still went on and said this about Max Kellerman, who is without a job, at least to the best of my knowledge. That's the first part I couldn't believe. But let me tell you guys where I think some of this is coming from, and it's a place where a lot of people think it's coming from. Let me just quickly refresh your memory. About 3 years ago, or 2+ years ago, there was a situation occurring with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was trying to make his return to the NFL. And there was a lot of controversy around it because Colin Kaepernick wanted to come with his own people to practice. He wanted to come with cameras. The NFL was against it. There was this big thing about Colin Kaepernick. And one day, they were discussing this on ESPN First Take. And on that segment, you had Stephen A. Smith, you had Max Kellerman, and you had the guest Terrell Owens on there. And essentially what they were discussing was, just to give you guys the backdrop, they were talking about why is Colin Kaepernick so reluctant to speak publicly and why is everyone speaking on his behalf. During that conversation, Max Kellerman was supporting Colin Kaepernick and Terrell Owens was supporting Colin Kaepernick. And then Stephen A. Smith started talking, and then at one point during that conversation, that dialogue, Terrell Owens says to Stephen A. Smith, it's almost as if Max Kellerman is blacker than you. And that completely sets Stephen A. Smith off.
So what he wanted was transparency for people to see the full workout, to see the full Colin Kaepernick. Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here. And like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother.
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute. Wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to check you right now. You don't cross the line.
I'm just saying.
Time. Wait a minute. You don't cross the line.
So you heard what was said. Many people believe that it was that particular segment that made Stephen A. Smith decide, this guy got to get out of here.